Hi, welcome to today's video. I am Harsha Rajendra Prasad. Today we'll be discussing about untangling the legacy maze. Let's talk about a brief history on the evolution of banking systems. So, a typical banking system would probably interact with customer in a set pattern. So, here is what it probably could look like. Typically, a legacy banking interaction is all paper bound, which means that most of the cases the customer has to visit the bank and get his interaction or the service done. Right? For example, account opening, withdrawals, customer support, transaction updates, loans and mortgages and money transfers and any of those sorts. While the customer does these activities by interacting with cashiers, call centers and accountants responsible from the bank. And this is a typical legacy banking world which is actually gradually changing, and we are embracing into a more modern banking system. So the modern banking system is a mobile first and always letting the customer interact with the bank in a real time or a 24/7 with a lot of flexibility in terms of speaking with, interacting with the services that are offered by the bank. So in terms of mobile banking, ATM, online banking, payment gateways and whatnot, right? So chatbots are the latest trends, right? So you'll be able to interact a lot of activities and get done a lot of activities with the bank with the help of modern mobile-based banking applications. Now that we have seen how a legacy banking application and a legacy banking terminology has changed into a more modern banking, mobile-based bankings, and this leads to a lot of technological advancements while also mandating the banks to improve their technological stack. And the other part of this is to have the banks grow in terms of expanding themselves to get a better market share and also to increase their customer base. So what that means is they acquire banks and a strategic bank remains. And while doing this activity, the most of the legacy applications along with their data also moves to the strategic system. And what this means is the acquiring bank owns the complete data, which can be of two parts. One probably a legacy system and the other could be the active system, which means that the strategic banking system has to probably manage all these systems, which is a added burden on top of the bank in terms of increase in storage cost, in terms of technological debt, in terms of challenges that becomes inherent with respect to governance requirements. That there are certain things that comes into picture, like maintaining those legacy applications become heavy in terms of high maintenance cost. So when the bank has to maintain both the application, it becomes very difficult for them to continue those applications as such. The next is skill scarcity, right? When it comes to a lot of legacy applications, skill set required for those applications becomes rare. And security risks, right? So when these applications coexist, the active and legacy systems, there are security threats that could come in, which will probably have potential to hamper the data security. And one of the key challenges that will also be is compliance and regulatory requirements, right? So with the ever-changing regulatory requirements, it becomes hard and difficult to get the regulatory requirements in place with those legacy applications. The best things to do is we need to manage and maintain those legacy data. So we need to ensure that all the data, include the legacy and the active data, are well managed. They are governed, they are retrievable and stored in a secure and in a place where they can be used at a future purposes. So this becomes the mandate, and the result of this is going to help us in multiple ways. So those are, we will be able to adhere to the regulatory compliances. We will be able to ensure we are able to pull the historical records whenever needed by our legal or any departments. We will be able to reduce the cost as such, as we are embracing a way and an efficient way of modernizing our applications while reducing the cost. Risk mitigation in terms of, decreasing the risk area, wherein we are able to protect data losses in terms of adhering to fraud investigations and other activities. we are able to increase our operational efficiency and speed up the production data retrieval systems by removing the data which is necessarily not need to be in the active systems. And one of the key aspects is we will be able to enable historical insights which could give a lot of understanding on top of the data that is actually archived. We saw how legacy banking system, and we also spoke about a modern banking application system. And we spoke about how a merger and acquisition situation can end up in large banks. And we will now talk about how strategically retrieve a legacy banking system. Right? So this could be very common use case for any of the banks that undergoes mergers and acquisition. First things first, right? So that could be a thing that we need to do in terms of creating a well-defined plan, which has got multiple steps in it, right? So to initiate a governance and stakeholder alignment, right? So what that means is probably set up a IT, compliance, risk and all those departments representation and create a chart which talks about how to initiate and define the scope and things like that. That becomes the first step. And then maintaining the system and data inventory, right? So that is very important, wherein you exactly have some references of all the data sets that are residing within your data sources, so that it becomes easily identifiable and we will be easily be able to map data ownerships and remove the ambiguity of who owns what. Third and very key point is identify and define regulatory and retention requirement activities on top of all these data. In terms of compliance requirements like government bodies like RBI, GDPR, PDPA, CCPN, all those mandatory laws in terms of how a data has to be retained, how a data set has to be securitized and how a data set has to be represented in terms of different jurisdictions in different geographies and whatnot, right? And also to agreeing to SLAs and data retrieval requirements, which makes that we are always compliant to our regulatory requirements. All this while, the three steps we probably spoke, planning phase or kind of scoping phase, right? So the next action is to probably migrate and archive, right? So for example, data extraction and transformation could be our next step, wherein we are taking all the data sets as is without changing any aspect of the data for the purpose of data archival, which is key in terms of archiving any data set. And the next point could be selecting the archival platform itself. So we need to see how we are able to go to a platform and select a platform which is very relevant to the needs of data archival, whether these fundamental requirements of data archival are satisfied, such as a few of those can be like whether I should go on an on-prem or should I go to a BOM type of a storage or should I go to a cloud. So all these are certain things that needs to be identified and addressed. And along with that, how the security aspect of the data that is sitting within the archival platform is also need to be kept in mind. For example, how the encryption happens in terms of data at rest, data in transit, and how the authorization and access levels are provisioned, how role-based access works. So all these should be very fluid so that it can be used to any type of data retrieval and data archival. And last but not the least, validation and auditing, which is very key, which ensures that no part of the data was missed or lost at any point in time with respect to the data archival journey, right? So which means that the data reconciliation is happening while we are also archiving the data, and we are also adhering to the regulatory requirements in terms of gathering the data from the source and safely archiving the data, and in terms of obtaining the sign-offs so that the business owners are happy, the technical teams are happy, and everyone is happy. To make this as a practice, probably have to set up a action plan as well, right? So that could be the repair and monitor in terms of application decommissioning. So we will be able to disable the existing integrations, middlewares, and free up all those infrastructure, and then migrate the residual operational functionality to newer strategic systems and shut down the applications as such completely. And the last but not the least is what we call as post-decommissioning monitoring. So maintain a proper support process which is definable and repeatable, which ensures that no part of the data is siloed at any point in time. And along with that, there are all required checksums, security measures, alerts, health monitoring activities are set up so that we are able to identify any issues well advanced, well ahead of time, so that those can be mitigated. Right? And also set up retention and expiry policies, which allows lawful deletion of data whenever it is eligible. Right? So we are not pushing or deleting of the data, which is actually need to be maintained a longer period of time. Here we are talking about our OFI in terms of Archon data store and how we are able to break this maze and untangle ourselves out of this maze of maintaining legacy data and as well as active applications in terms of banks here. So one of the key things that we are able to do with Archon Data Store platform is doing a complete data discovery and cataloging, right? So that becomes the foundational aspect of any good data archival platform, wherein we are able to identify the complete data information and we are able to completely understand the schemas. We are able to register all those in terms of catalogs and we are able to intake the data even before we start our archival process. And one of the key things is data quality and regulatory mapping. So we do a lot of data quality checks in terms of we are having all the data that is necessary for legal and compliance purposes sitting with the archive. And also we document and do a lot of mappings in terms of ensuring that all the data along with its data retention requirements are fully adhered. And there are in-house tools to enable this in a systematic and automatic fashion, right? So we have purpose built and highly tuned efficient processes which help us to gather data from different data sets and transform the data in such a way that we are able to collect all the data points from the different data sources and on top of that be able to apply all the necessary security aspects to the data and then get that into the archive. And finally, coming to the archival and secure storage, so we ensure that none of the data that is in the archive is exposed to any type of security threats. We maintain all the data to be searchable with respect to data retrieval capabilities. We ensure that the encryption, all those masking, all those security relevant requirements are also captured. And at the end of the day, we will be able to maintain sub-second data retrieval, right? So what that means is we are able to not just archive the data, but also able to retrieve the data when and where needed in a very short span of time and also while maintaining the immutability of the data, which is one of the key pillars of a compliant data archive. So these are our major points with respect to archiving any data with Archon Data Store. Well, that concludes our video for today, and we hope that you got a clarity on how you are able to untangle yourself from the legacy data maze, and this gives a picture on how things can be set up. I believe that you might have a lot of things to check and validate. So feel free to reach out to us. We will be happy to help you. Thank you.